And we're recording. We're not
here?
live. We're
I
here.
don't know if I'm here.
I'm here. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent. And my dumbass just brought up the YouTube comments for no reason because that's not a thing tonight.
Right. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, a slight change, right? So just to kind of give you guys the heads up on what's going on right now. So Kent and I have been talking, obviously, as we often do. And we realize that, adulting life just kind of been getting in the way quite a bit lately. With that being said, obviously we haven't been able to produce as many live shows as we possibly could, or at the schedule that we wished we could have maintained. So we're calling an audible. We're going to start doing some pre-recorded episodes for you guys, and hopefully you will play along with us, continuing to follow. Live broadcasts will still occur, but we're going to try to limit those to when we have actual guests, and it's not just our smiling faces when we're talking about this kind of stuff. As always, you can reach out to us.
Wait, I'm sorry. I stepped on you, which I do live all the time, but now that it's recorded, for some reason, I feel bad. I don't know why.
We would lose the sentiment of our relationship if you did not, even in a recorded episode.
I am clearly the Bert Kreischer to your Tom. If we were both bears and we're in a cave. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, now that I stepped on him and talked about stepping on him and then made an analogy about somebody else stepping on somebody else, Zach Cox, when you see this, I can't talk back to you. It's recorded. Dude, he's going to be going, he's not texting me back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, dude.
Exactly.
Recorded.
That just means I think that I think we need to still keep the same "and we're live" opening, just so we can fuck with him, just explicitly to mess with Zach.
Just only Zach, just nobody else.
That's right. That's right. But with that, folks, obviously going to more pre-recorded content. Obviously, you're going to have questions. You're going to have feedback. Of course, we do watch the comment section, of course. However, do not hesitate to reach out to us on Sling'N Podcast on Facebook, Instagram. Those will all go to Kent now because I don't have social media anymore.
I was just going to say, yeah, hesitate just a little. I'm busy. Here's the deal. Or just email us at slingandleadpodcast@gmail.com. Here's the deal. You will get a response. If it's about something that's going to happen tomorrow, it would be a good idea to email or text Kent@greenmountaindefense.com. Shit, I'll put the Green Mountain Defense phone number 223-322-0584. If you actually need something, do that. Recently, I've been getting like Insta, Facegram, U-Book messages, and I'm like, bro, I read these after I read my 6 email accounts, check my two freaking text messages, after my wife tells me what to do, after my husband tells me what to do. Fucking them instant inner Google messages. Like I'm down with it, but I don't know what to type. Anyway.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Really but either way,
this is gonna be fun.
I think this is gonna be fun. I think this is gonna be a good new format for us. So let's get into the
what?
God damn it! What?
Hold on. I actually rehearsed an intro for this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is how much work. This is how much work I put into thinking about this podcast. I really had to think about this one. Here's the deal. One of the things I really enjoy in life is the idea of a yellow notebook, like a pad of paper. And on that pad of paper at the top, you could write things Kent don't know shit about, right? And you could start writing today and you'd fill that motherfucker and never stop and go buy another one and another one and another one at Staples. There's all kinds of stuff I don't know shit about. One of the things that I barely kind of sort of familiarly, like marginally know some sort of shit about, mostly anecdotally, is archery.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 10 days ago old when I learned, again, other things I don't know. I'm still like growing in our friendship. We've known each other 5 years now. We have spoken on the phone maybe 6 years. Holy shit. Anyway, we met in 2018.
I think, yeah.
17? Holy shit. Anywho, in all that time, I never, like, we talked about bow hunting, like, tangentially, like, wouldn't it be cool to go on an elk hunt or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I started getting technical with you, talking to you about my tribulation setting up my bow for upcoming for upcoming archery season.
Well, here's your first problem.
Dude, guys, it turns out TJ knows a whole bunch of shit about archery. I had no idea. I was 10 days ago old when I learned that. And TJ ain't one of them fellas to like start running his suck hole when he kind of sort of knows something. TJ's either I know something or I don't know something.
That's right.
So when TJ started talking, I shut the whole fuck up, believe that or not. And in 20 minutes, I was like, holy crap, I just got a gun class from TJ, but on archery.
Mm-hmm. So what happens when you don't fucking interrupt me?
Right. So we're going to try and replicate that here tonight. We're going to try to keep this to an hour because it's pre-recorded and we can edit. We can do some content modulation. But man, I recently got a wild hair up my ass, so I was going to break out my bow, my compound hunting bow, and I was going to get her all set up again. Mm-hmm. And the last person that helped me set up a bow was my older brother. And he set up a PSE something for me. Help me with it. I'm going to go ahead and say 15 years ago.
Right.
And in my move and in my crate, and since then I had bought another bow, this Martin Bone Hunter that I'm running now. And in my, I had Dad's crossbow, I had Dad's bow, I had my bow. And in the like, hey, let's sell off some of this stuff that we don't need. I think I thought I was keeping the one that Kyle helped me set up. But as it turns out, I kept the Martin Bone Hunter that I bought at like some archery shop in, Barry, Vermont, R&L Archery in Barry, Vermont. Now, no slight to those boys. R&L Archery, I'm sure if this bow got fucked up, it was my doing. And I never really got good with it. But I thought I was keeping that PSE, and I think I kept the wrong bow. So I got rid of a crossbow and 2 compound bows. And I think I made a poor choice in what I kept and what I didn't. So when I decided I'm going to bust that bow out this year, I busted out a Martin Bone Hunter, a bunch of mismatched arrows, and some other miscellaneous nonsense. And as I'm sitting here talking, I am convinced that there's more archery tackle somewhere behind me in this basement because I like kind of sort of feel like there should be. And it ain't there. So, I don't even remember how the estate shook out. Somebody got Dad's bow and that's good. But wasn't me. I got his crossbow and sold it because I didn't like decocking it. Because you had to shoot a bolt into a pile of freaking dirt or some shit. That was annoying and worrisome to me. So I went, and plus, or you drive around with a cocked and locked crossbow in your truck, which sounds, you wouldn't do that with a gun. So I don't know. It just
it's especially dangerous to do that with a crossbow. So yeah, you definitely, and we even talked about that. So anyway, quick, just to kind of give my bona fides on this, right? So how is it that your humble basement based ginger came to know so much about archery, right? So I actually picked up a bow. I was given a bow by my father before I was given any type of firearm, even including a BB gun or pellet rifle, right? It was some no-name, probably Walmart special 30-pound recurve traditional bow with fiberglass arrows, and he set up a few hay bales in the backyard, and that was my archery target. And that was the cool thing about that, because it was the back end of a butter knife is sharper than these are arrows. I was allowed to go out there completely unsupervised, and I was allowed to shoot at that target all day long. Right. So I spent quite a bit of time behind a recurve just in my youth. I actually started, so fast forward many years, because of the military and all my deployments and everything like that. I actually did not start hunting until I was about 23. It's 23, 24, around that time frame. I had just come back from my first tour in Afghanistan. Had a very dear friend of mine who actually I still talk to this day, who worked with me at that point in time. Good old boy from West Virginia. Has got several deer on the record books there in West Virginia. And he's the one that actually taught me how to hunt. My dad taught me a few things, of course, but I credit a lot of my hunting knowledge to what my buddy Chris taught me. With that being said, I started with archery tackle. Got me a compound bow, had it all fitted out. Nothing super expensive. Specifically, that was a PSE Brute back in the day. It was probably a $400 bow out the door. But killed my first deer with it at 37 yards. Right. And proceeded to continue hunting archery tackle exclusively for the next 10 years. And in the course of doing that, I, of course, upgraded to different bows. I got faster bows. I got more expensive bows to really fit the niche that I was looking for, the comfortability that I was looking for. And we'll talk about some of why people do that here in a little bit. But as I continued to upgrade, and I would spend a lot of time hanging out with my bow technicians, or they're actually called bowyers, Bowyer, or bow technician for simplicity's sake. I would hang out with them a lot, and I would watch them work on my bows. I would ask questions, and they were kind enough to kind of show me the ropes, right? Because like all things, just as I've approached with firearms, as I approach with vehicles, things that you that you cherish and that provide value to you, you should learn how to repair and maintain those things, right? You don't necessarily need to know how to swap out the valve covers on your 71 Chevy, but damn it, it might be good to know how to change oil, spark plugs, and diagnose major issues. But I had a tackle set, everything in my bow case. I could practically completely rebuild my bow short of applying a new string to it, right? So that's the nuts and bolts of it. So just to touch on this, right, and why is it important? You know, especially if you're looking at getting into archery. If first of all, it's very rewarding. Some of you more call it traditional hunters will understand when I say this. It's a bit more of a spiritual connection to your quarry, and it means a lot, right? There's something about getting within 20 yards, which is the average archery shot while you're whitetail hunting, getting within 20 yards of your game and being able to be stealthy enough and deliberate enough in your actions and your movements, including battling buck fever while you're drawn down on a deer or a bear, and being able to hold that thing steady without disturbing the sight picture so you can get a clean release and an ethical kill, right? There's just so much to it. So much to it. It means a lot. So much so, just to kind of give you guys an idea, I still have bows. I don't have any compound bows anymore. I have a cheap recurve that I still play with once in a while. And I have my prized possession from an archery perspective. I had a custom longbow built by while I was on deployment. I had a custom longbow built that will ultimately be handed down to my children and grandchildren. And so on and so forth,
wait, hold on. Now I am gonna step on you because everything you just said, I knew you were gonna say till that. But so I imagine the process of getting a custom longbow built is something akin to getting on a horse, riding into an Indian reservation, doing some sort of peyote with a shaman, and they build you a bow and whittle you a bow out of like deer hide string and apple butter wood. I'm not sure if I'm doing a bow commercial or an Applebee's commercial anymore, but like,
right, it's the seared skillet $5 longbow special,
right?
Yeah. So believe it or not, so it wasn't peyote with an Indian shaman. It was ayahuasca with a guy named Bill. No, I'm kidding. No. So, I do apologize because I cannot remember the guy's name. However, his company, as I recall, should still be in existence. He started as a furniture maker. He made custom furniture for many, many years, and he made bows on the side. And the company is called Bushman Bows. I'll gladly give him a shout out. He did absolutely gorgeous work, completely made, handmade. But Ken, dude, I could show it here on camera, but it just doesn't do it justice. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous long bow. And what's really cool about it is it's a breakdown, and you can't tell.
Oh, so it breaks them.
It will come apart. It will come apart in two pieces, and you cannot tell that it will come apart. There are no bolts or other hardware.
Holy smokes! These dudes are taking deer with this thing.
Yeah. So here's why I preface it with that or set up this. It's a long way to say I have been practicing with what they call traditional tackle. It's traditional archery or trad archery. I have been practicing with traditional archery tackle, obviously, since I was a young man. I still am not comfortable enough within my skill set to harvest game with that tackle because I need to be absolutely damn certain of shot placement to ensure that it's an ethical kill. Right.
Holy smokes, dude. I don't know about when you got this thing or how long it's been, but the cheapest thing they make is $850.
Yeah, it cost me about $1,200 all said and done. Now he made this for me while I was on a deployment. I was able to, communicate with him back and forth via email, let him know what I was kind of looking for. It was very much for the long distance that relationship was. It was very much still a concierge service. He sent me pictures. Every time he made a major milestone, I got to watch the bow being built effectively. And the dude did absolutely gorgeous work.
Fellow's name is Steve, by the way.
Yeah,
Steve does offer a peyote package. So
yeah, but he included fully fletched and set up arrows, all that good stuff. But I'm on his website now. I'm wondering if my bow is on his gallery.
That'd be neato burrito.
It would be many years ago. But
I think you need to break that thing back out.
Yeah, I absolutely do. But yeah, Stephen Jewett, that's his name. Oh, but yeah, wow. I mean, I communicated directly with Stephen. Again, phenomenal customer service. If you're going to get that serious into it, something I certainly recommend. He gave me 2 strings. I've got a piece of paper that has all the details about the bow. So if I ever need to go get a new string for it or whatever, like all the details on the arrows that he put together for it. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And I love that thing. So
awesome. So let me start with, I'm going to make you the guest now. And I'm going to start talking through some stuff here. So something you just said, one of the things that you talked about was connection to your quarry or whatever. So this is not a concept I'm super unfamiliar with, right? Like I fly fish. You and I just got into fly fishing together. I got you into fly fishing, kind of, sort of. Yeah. So I fish that way. And as I think about my hunting victories or successes, like the deer I shot at Zach's farm 2 years ago now, maybe last year, was absolutely the furthest shot on a deer I've ever taken. Yeah, and I can't give you an exact range, 100x, right? Sorry, I'm just quieting Sweetie.
Well, and if it was a rifle, I mean, 100 yards, right? 150 if you're lucky, maybe 200 yards.
No, it was a 308.
Like, yeah, 200 yards on a whitetail during rifle season in the woods. Yeah. That's an extremely long shot.
Yeah, this was more of a like cattle farm setting, rolling hill country. out of a elevated box blind, 10 power optic. Like that's the longest deer shot I've made. A Pennsylvania woodsman farm boy kind of deal. Most of I bet you 30 and in covers most of big game I've killed. My super duper, my biggest accomplishment as a big game hunter is my Canadian black bear. And I shot him at exactly 17 yards. Right? I know right where he was standing versus where I shot him, because it's exactly where I didn't want him to be standing as a left-handed shooter shooting out of a elevated stand like that. There was as much downward angle distance in that shot as there was distance from the base of the tree, easily.
Right.
Anyway, my point, as a hunter, I'm certainly capable of getting game that close to me. With respect to the archery thing, keeping in mind guns are like a living for me. I just taught a rifle class. Like I teach people to shoot rifles and shotguns. So picking up a rifle or a shotgun to take game is not exactly a foreign concept to me.
Mm-hmm.
I understand fundamentals and principles of marksmanship well enough to know that I need to breathe, I need to hold steady, I need to relax, I need to do the same thing every time, and with a level of consistency. And I need to be able to repeat and myelinate and practice that. And there's no way to dry fire a bow. No, like first of all, dry firing a bow is dangerous as fuck. If you let a compound bowstring go without an arrow in it, you don't have a string anymore. You have what was left over.
It will grenade, especially modern compound bows. They will grenade on you at a heartbeat under dry fire conditions.
Yeah, so that's not a thing. But then again, a block target and 15, 20 yards in your backyard, and you can easily shoot arrows pretty much. I don't know. I don't care. I don't know if there's any laws against doing it in my backyard. But then again, I do rifle and pistol and shotgun dry fire in my backyard. So like, if the local 5.0 is going to come around wondering about something, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the dude sprinting up and down the backyard with a rifle that he's dry firing. Like that probably looks a little more suspicious. Anyway, point being, I don't understand bow setup. I'm understanding it better as I'm farting with this, and as TJ helped me kind of work through it. But I didn't understand, like I don't understand some of the measurements and guys, ATA, IBO, all these numbers that you see floating around. Much like if you've never shot a rifle scope, you don't know the difference between mil and MOA or whatever. So I understand some of that stuff. There's some technique things that I thought I was doing right that I wasn't. TJ quickly helped me unfuck those things. I mean, a very quick phone call and a couple notes on the iPhone, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing that right. I'm not doing that right. So we can talk through some of that. Or even think less in terms of not doing it right. Just I'm doing it the only version that is actually factually wrong. Like there's only one way to do this wrong, and I done found it, that kind of shit. So let's talk through a couple of things first. The mechanism, as I understand it, for taking game with a bow is predominantly cutting surface of a broadhead, compounded with speed. Much like kinetic energy calculation on a rifle. How big a hole are you punching, and how fast is your projectile going when it punches that hole? Right? Yeah. So there's something you got to remember, right? So your average rifle, let's just use your 308 as an example. Out of a 16-inch barrel, you're lucky if you're pushing, call it 2,600 feet per second. Sure.
Fair? It's 180 up to 168 grain, 155 grain, 170 grain, something like that. when it comes to archery, you're pushing approximately a 450 grain stick with a sharp blade on the front of it at 300 feet per second. Again, if you're lucky, right? Most of these, and we'll touch on the ATA and the IBO speeds real quick. ATA and IBO, I can't remember specifically what the acronyms stand for, but that doesn't really matter. The point is that when you're shopping for a bow, it's going to have published velocities, just like you will for when you're buying ammo from a gun store. Look on the back of it, right? This is your velocity. Now, conceptually, that is a velocity out of a fixed standard, a fixed known and published standard. So out of a 24-inch barrel from a rest, controlled conditions, right? Blah, 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 blah. ATA and IBO are effectively the same thing. It is the recorded velocity of your arrow from that bow at a certain length of arrow, or a certain total grain weight of arrow, and a particular draw length of your bow, right? So if your bow is capable of being drawn back to 31 inches, and your draw length is 28 and a quarter, or 28 and 3/4, or 29, or whatever, it's probably your arrows are probably going to move a little bit slower, right? Just to keep it simple for everybody playing the home game, if you are shopping for a bow, there is a fine line or a balance between speed and silence. Okay? You can have what they call a speed bow. It is a bow that is designed explicitly to crank as much velocity out of that arrow as possible. And then you have bows that are a bit more stealthy. I generally will look for a bow that will shoot at 300 feet per second with my setup, with my draw length, with my arrow weight, whatever they might be. That's what I'm looking for. When you start buying a bow based explicitly on the fact that it has a published IBO speed or an ATA speed of 350 feet per second, it will move fast. Stuff will move like grease owl shit. It'll move quick. However, you're going to give up the silence of the shot. While arrows do not, or while firing archery tackle doesn't necessarily result in a crack like that of a gun or a bullet passing the sound barrier, there is a twang of the string. There is a violent vibration that goes through the aluminum riser and into the there's noise that comes from the bow. So why that's important is if you happen to miss, you are not scaring away all the other game, or your likelihood of scaring away all the other deer in that area is minimized. So silence is a good thing. There's also, and just a last point on this one, the silent bow will also help mitigate deer ducking the arrow.
All right, so here's where I'm going to stop you, because my dad used to say that. So I'm stuck in this. Well, yeah, okay. But you have to understand that my dad also used to say that hitting a paper plate at 100 yards was good enough to go deer hunting with on a 30-30.
Mm-hmm.
So 36-year-old Kent looks back on 50-year-old Tom with a bit of skepticism sometimes.
Right.
A little bit of the, well, I mean, and everybody's got the granddaddy, your daddy, like the wives' tales and the,
you and I both, brother.
Well, the whole, he also used to tell me trout would smell me. Buddy, like, okay, right?
No,
so I don't.
Side note, I always wondered why lures are advertised with what kind of scent they put off.
Right.
I don't know what part of the fish is the nose, but okay.
Right. A trout has two small nasal pits, one on each side of the snout, four to the eyes, through which water circulates. Many 5 to 10 million scent detecting cells may be found in these highly folded tissues within the nasal pits.
Oh, okay.
The trout's ability to detect minute traces of scent have fishing implications. See, again, that's another thing Dad knew about, I didn't know about. Okay?
Right.
My point.
What's your question about the ducking the arrow?
Here's the deal, because I was doing the math on this in my head, and I was thinking, all right, 300 feet a second, 30 yards.
Try less.
300 divided by 3. What are we talking about? What's 30 yards in feet? What's 30 yards in feet?
Approximately 30. It's about 33 feet.
Right. Okay.
Or no, sorry, I went from meters to yards. Yes, right. It's 90 feet. Yes, sorry.
Okay. So we can travel 30 yards in a second.
Just about.
The fucking arrow can go that whole distance in a second.
Mm-hmm.
A 15-yard shot means it's a half a second from the time you press the release until the time there's a thing downrange at the thing.
Yep.
And for the longest time, I thought, you mean to tell me that son bitch can move its body in a half or a second to the reaction of audible stimulus? So, now.
That's it. Well, hold on. That's exactly right. So there's two. First of all, you have to understand that deer have superhuman level hearing, right?
But even humans can react to a shot timer in 0.2.
Right. But you got to remember the deer is doing two things. It is responding to the sound that the bow makes, hence why I like to balance between speed and silence, but also the wind of that 450 grain, 29-inch long stick whipping through the air. And a deer's immediate reaction to a stimulus like that is to duck. It loads its legs before it takes off running, right? So think of it like how you're prepping for a high jump, right? Same thing happens to a deer. So shot placement is incredibly critical. That's why I've seen some people like it depending. This is another good thing about archery, and the spirituality of the hunt is it does require you to understand, the biology of the game that you're hunting. If you're aiming high on the shoulder, let's say the deer's at 30 yards out, you're 20 feet up in the tree stand, that's arguably, depending on terrain, that's arguably going to be a pretty flat shot, all things considered, right? 20 feet up, deer's 30 yards away. You're probably going to aim for the armpit, right? Or the back of that shoulder blade. That deer will drop 6 inches and dart when it hears that bow go off. So there is a possibility, and I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. I've missed several deer that way, where it slipped the arrow, ducked the arrow. Usually you'll go pull your arrow out of a tree or the dirt behind it, and you'll see that there were deer hairs on the blades or stuck to the bow shaft or the arrow shaft because you gave that deer a haircut.
Right. But see, here's the thing. Dumbass teenage young adult Kent was like, if the deer doesn't know I'm there, how's it know to duck? Like it knows I'm throwing shit at it. It ain't ducking. It's preloading its legs to run.
Right. So it ducks the arrow.
It's not like, fuck, here comes an arrow.
Right. Right.
Well, again, like trout can smell me. My plate's good
and deer can duck your arrow. Yeah. Everything runs in bullet time for the deer, where everything just slows down and goes, oh, let me move. Right. Now I'm gonna run away. Right. But yeah. So that's honestly one of the reasons that speed bows have become so popular to the uninitiated, is because they'll hear about deer ducking the arrow, and they'll be like, oh, well, that's a simple fix. I'll just get a faster bow.
Right. Or
what they don't realize is because it is faster, it makes more noise, or it is harder to silence. And it just creates more. So you're not really defeating the problem, right?
All right.
You're getting a slight edge. You're getting a slight edge on it, but it's not going to correct the problem. I promise you take the fastest bow on the planet. I guarantee you there's still a deer that's ducked that damn thing.
All right. So question, should I make aiming low a matter of course practice? Should I aim a little lower than I think I
need to? Yeah, wherever I draw down on the deer. Now, keep in mind, when you're archery hunting, you're typically hunting from an elevated position, so you have to take into account angles, right? Shot placement on the anatomy of a target, of a three-dimensional target. If it's at 10 yards and you're practically shooting downward at that thing, then you're it's going to be different. And obviously the ducking's not too much of an issue. Wherever I would think, this is just kind of a rule of thumb that I put into my own head, and it's worked out well for me. Wherever I first line up my sights on that deer, I will intentionally drop my line of sight or my sight picture just another inch or two, just to give it a bit of a grace, right?
Okay.
Worst case, it's a single lung shot and a heart shot versus a double lung shot, which is honestly the easiest and most ethical way to take a deer.
All right, fair. So I'm tracking on the deer anatomy. I'm with you. I know right where you put my crosshairs. Brown, press, bang has usually been my fucking motto. Right. But anyway, so we got that covered. So that's bow speed. And I threw some links into the chat so I could read them. Archery manufacturers use IBO, International Bow Hunters Organization, or ATA, Archery Trade Association. So in rifleman's terms, that's SAMI, small arms manufacturer, blah, blah, blah. It's an industry standard measurement of bow speed. So there's ATA and IBO, International Bow Hunters Organization, and Archery Trade Association. Okay.
Yep.
So that's speeds. Now let's talk about draw weight, because and we're talking about my bow specifically here. I'm running a Martin Bone Hunter from the early 2010s, and I am confused, and I believe my bow shop is as well. Everything I read on this bow online says that this bow has adjustability 50, 60, and 70 pounds. Yep. Now the first thing I thought, and I genuinely thought this, if you read the specs, it says adjustability 50 to 70 pounds.
Yes.
What did I think that meant? I thought the dash meant 51, 52, 53, 54. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that only means 50, 60, or 70 pounds.
Not true.
Okay, thank you. Great.
That's not true. It would be more. Well, hold on. Let me back that up just a hair. Generally speaking, it is literally anything from 50 to 70. So 51 through 69 plus 1, right? You can get there. And that's just the way the adjustment. I'll explain how that's adjusted here in a second.
But wait. If my adjustment only has three settings.
Hold on. Let me finish. There are probably, because I haven't kept up with the technology, I've been trying to catch myself up with some of the new offerings on the market, but there may be new ways where it is more of a set number depending on the manufacturer. But I will tell you, generally speaking, higher end bows, and I'm saying even like, and when I say high end bows, I mean anything over $600, right? $600 up to $2,000. The way that you adjust the draw weight is by the two main limb pocket screws. So there's two big bolts that affix the limbs to the riser, right? You take an Allen key or an Allen wrench and you crank it all the way down, and then you back it out a turn or a half a turn or whatever. And the torque or the distance that is screwed in to the riser will determine the weight of your pull.
Okay.
And let's dispense with all the madness, right? The real simple reason. So the real question is, what's the minimum I need to effectively harvest game with that tackle? And my general rule of thumb is you can get away with 50, but I would not recommend any bow less than 55 pounds of draw weight. If it goes from 50 to 70, fine. Set it to where you get it to at least 55 and whatever's going to be comfortable for you. And happy hunting, right? So, and that's really just, and there's the only reason I say that is because depending on the grain weight and the type of broadhead you're using, it is the surest way to ensure that you are throwing enough ass behind that arrow that it's actually going to penetrate the bone and the rest of the tissue that it needs to penetrate, right? It's all about It's all about ethics in your harvest.
Interesting.
So to ensure you can make an ethical kill regardless of arrow weight, broadhead style, or whatever, 55 pounds is a minimum that I would recommend anybody hunt with. If you're just doing this for target, fuck, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. 10 pounds. I don't give a shit. Now, if you are going to go to, say, Colorado, New Mexico, go out west, do a big game elk hunt where your average shot's going to be 60 yards plus, you're going to want to crank that bow up to 70 pounds. So there's a reason for, like, I like the adjustability, but my everyday TJ's going to go hunting this year like he has every other year. 55 pounds minimum is what I'm going out in the field with.
Okay. So my bow is supposedly at 57 pounds right now. That's what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
But that same bow shop also told me that I had 3 settings. I don't believe it. Doesn't look that way to me. It looks to me like it's the Allen screw thing that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And there's now
and also
maybe,
proved by the fact that yours is currently set at 57, not 60 or 50.
Well, right, but he was kind of saying, and maybe he was just saying you either want to be at 50, 60, or 70. But I don't understand the why behind it. My understanding was that 50 was the minimum you needed to kill a deer. Mm-hmm. So anywhere that bow was set would be all right because it would never go below 50.
That's right.
Right. So no matter what, you'd be okay. Now, mm-hmm. I don't know. Tonight I dry fired my pistol. I shot 30 arrows out of the bow. And I did kettlebell workout with 20-pound kettlebells, apparently. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that some of the kettlebell things I was doing were way more taxing than drawing this bow. Yes. So, like, I'm not certain that I would know the difference.
I will tell you, when you max that fucker out, you'll notice the difference.
Okay.
Right, because my absolute, we'll call it my best. But I don't even want to call it my best bow because it really wasn't my best, but it was probably the newest, fanciest, and most expensive one I ever owned. I had a Hoyt, can't remember the damn name of it. It was the ones for that year. It was the one model below the carbon element. Right, so Hoyt and several other manufacturers have started producing bow risers that are made out of explicitly carbon fiber. They're incredibly light. They don't get cold when you're hunting with them, which is awesome, by the way.
Okay.
Because you got a gloved hand. You got a gloved hand. You grab an aluminum riser, that bitch is gonna make your knuckles freeze. Carbon doesn't.
This is how bow-tarded I am. Hold on. Guys keep throwing these terms around, so I'm gonna keep like baby backing you down like 4 levels of stupid. What is the riser?
Okay, so the riser is what you would consider the main body of the bow that you actually grip. So you've got your limbs, right?
Yeah.
Which connect to your cams, right?
Cams are the wheels that pull the strings.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The riser is the piece.
Let's just go backwards. You got your string so you've got your string. That is really long and it runs kind of catty corner right between the two cams. Your cams, now you can have a cam and a wheel or 2 cams. That's called a dual cam or a solo cam.
I have a solo cam.
The only reason that matters, there's 2 reasons that matters. One, smoothness of draw typically is found in a solo cam. Speed is usually found in a dual cam. Okay. We can get into some of the complexities and why you might want to choose one over the other, aside from those 2 things from a technical perspective, but regardless, your cams are mounted and held by the limbs, right? So these are the 2 sticks that come back towards you, right?
So guys, I literally have a diagram.
Yeah, in between the limbs is the riser, right? So that is what that is called, is the main body of the bow itself, typically made out of aluminum, carbon fiber, or wood.
Interesting.
And if you want to talk about traditional archery, if you're talking about like a recurve or a longbow, the riser would technically be considered the main body of the bow that before it tapers into the limbs, right? So as it starts to taper, that's where your limbs start and your riser ends. But yeah, so hey, look, we have visual aids, dude. We should have started doing this so much before. But yeah, so there's your anatomy, right? You got a roller guard, you've got a string stop, also in the back. The roller guard is more important. Actually, no, they're probably both equally important. The string stop can be replaced, though. There are people that will use softer ones, harder ones, whatever have you, longer ones, shorter ones. It all depends. But most people won't change those out. If you told me you changed out your string stop, I'd have to look at you cross-eyed because why? Because it directly influences the timing of the release of the bow or of the arrow from the string. Also helps cut down on what we call string snap when it smacks your forearm because you didn't have your grip proper.
Okay, so speaking of that.
Oh, and while you have that up, yep, bring it back up.
Stand by.
Class is in session.
Do it.
So the distance, and this is important, the distance between the arrow shelf and the string, the bowstring itself, where you would attach your arrow, is called your brace height.
Oh.
Brace height. Yeah.
So when they said, see, I was thinking of height on a vertical axis. And it's if you were to take this bow and rotate it 90 degrees, so the string was up and the front of the riser was pointed downward, there's your vertical measurement. But it is the lateral horizontal measurement from the arrow shelf to the string, period. The front or the back of the arrow shelf?
So I typically will go to the back of the shelf.
Okay. So when they said brace height, see, this literally, like, I'm looking going, okay, so that's the measurement from the bottom of the grip to the top of the brace.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought that was.
It's the string to the arrow shelf itself.
Okay.
And one of the primary reasons that matters is because now brace height generally ranges from like 6.5 to 7.5.
Right.
Those are common measurements.
Somebody asked me what mine was, and I measured my grip, and I said it was 12 inches or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. So a longer brace, so a shorter brace height is good for a smaller statured individual. So think children, women, or your short kings of 2023 that are 5'5" and 130 pounds soaking wet. The shorter brace height is good for people of a smaller stature and structure. For bigger people with longer arms, like, average adult male is 5'9" and above, right? That brace height needs to be a little bit longer for those individuals because you will get a nice little bruise right here on the inside of your arm if your brace height's too short. So,
so that's something
if you're a grown ass adult, you're going to want at least a 7-inch or 7.5-inch brace height.
Okay. So
the downside is those aren't generally adjustable.
The other thing
just is
I
what
was
it is.
doing wrong is I thought I had to have my support arm fully locked out and extended, like with a locked elbow this way, instead of some level of cant. So I was getting smacked by my string in the forearm because I was putting too much. I was overly tweaking my support hand.
So real quick on that, when you initially draw your bow, until you anchor and prepare to fire, keep your arm locked out, because just as many people that have smacked on the arm with the forearm with the string, several other people have been smacked in the snoot with a riser of a bow because it slipped past their thumb or their elbow gave out and they punched themselves in the face with it. So there's nothing wrong with locking your arm out when you're first drawing back, but as soon as you anchor, let that elbow relax a little bit and then get into your shot.
Yeah.
Right? So fair. there's a pretty impressive or a pretty methodical approach to that draw, right? And especially when your heart's racing, you finally you heard that noise that was behind you was in fact not a fucking squirrel, and now it's an actual deer, and you go to draw, right? Being able to lock that thing out as well, and then move slowly and steadily, it's gonna help. It's gonna make it easier for you to keep the back tension you need to keep everything locked in place while you settle into your shot.
Okay, very cool. So let's talk about, let's see, some other stuff that I was misconstruing. Talk about support hand grip on the bow. So now you got me doing this OK symbol thing, which I'm basically doing this. So I'm basically 3 fingers off the bow, pointer finger and thumb touching, and that's it. And I'm dragging the back of the bow into my into the web of my thumb and hand. Kind of, sort of, very similar to how you'd shoot a handgun, honestly.
Yeah. So you can, and let's be clear, you can and should curl your fingers. Because I did realize, Kent, while we were talking about it, the way you described it to me and the hearing from someone else that you could cut your fingers, right, on your broadhead as it goes through. If you draw your bow and you stick your fingers out and up like a knife hand, you can put that shit into the trajectory of your arrow, and that will.
So I was doing that.
So that will take a finger off. So the point is, though, no grip whatsoever. Like, your fingers are. Imagine you're holding a baby bird, right? That's the amount of pressure that you're holding on the front. Yeah, just super gentle. As a matter of fact, when you loose that arrow, the only thing that should really keep your bow in your hand is going to be the sling that goes over your wrist that attaches to the back of your riser.
I still have it. Okay. So you said that to me too. I still haven't had the experience. That hasn't happened.
Where it just rolls forward?
No, I'm still holding on to something.
Yeah. And
is that a huge problem or?
It's not a huge problem. So it's kind of like when you tell people when they're shooting, let the shot surprise you.
Sure.
Right? When you're shooting extreme accuracy and for marksmanship at distance, the reality is the shot probably is never going to surprise them, if at all. But that's the mindset that they have, right? So same concept. The mindset you should have with the amount of pressure is that your pressure can be so light that the only thing keeping the bow attached to you is the wrist sling if after you shoot it, right? As a matter of fact, you can watch like the Olympic archery tournaments. Whenever they shoot, they'll intentionally let go with their support hand, and that bow will rock forward.
Yeah, should I be trying to do that, or should it not matter?
Yeah, you don't have, for hunting. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, do the OK symbol, like just the meditative level of pressure between your thumb and index finger. Curl your other fingers in just so they're out of the way, but there's no reason to death grip that bow like you would a gun.
Right. Yeah. So that's now what I'm doing. The other thing I was told I believed incorrectly is that stabilizers don't matter. And I'm going to tell you right now that today at Cabela's, I purchased a Trophy Ridge Hitman bow stabilizer. A quick detach bow stabilizer. They come in 6, 8, and 12 inches. I went 6 inches. And they're quick detach, so I can always buy the 8 or the 12 if I think one's super better than the other. And dude, I'm
having one is important, period. I've had some that were, 8 inches. I've had the factory. So some ready to hunt packages will come with a cheap dingy rubber stabilizer. Yeah. Those work too. As long as you have one, there is a significant difference because all these little rubber doodads and sticks and stuff that hang off of your bow are going to help mitigate the vibration, which cuts down the noise and also helps stabilize the bow or balance the bow when it's going through its shot cycle. Yep, right. There it is. And that literally just screws right into the front of the bow. just below the grip on the riser.
Yep. So here's the thing now. This one out here at the end, away from the bow, has weights.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you something. My pins move less with this stabilizer.
Mm-hmm.
I am, in fact, more stable with this stabilizer. So my little 3-inch rubber dinghy that was on the bow that also dry rotted and was coming apart in pieces has now been replaced with something that seems to actually help. So that was pretty telling and cool. Something else that I did that TJ recommended I do was I removed, though I'm unable, with my particular sight, I'm unable to remove entirely the other 2 pins. There's 3 pins. For argument's sake, you have a 20-yard pin, a 40-yard pin, and a 60-yard pin, let's say, green, yellow, and red. TJ recommended I get the visual clutter out of my sighting system, which I didn't think was bothering me, but he's absolutely right, it was. And I dropped yellow and red all the way to the bottom of the sight to the point where I can't even see them anymore when I'm aiming. And all I can see is green. I do wish that my sight model would allow me to pick a color for the different delineations of pins. Mine won't. Green has to be at the top, yellow has to be in the middle, and red has to be at the bottom because there's like this little twine of reflective whatever that's attached to it.
Generic ass fiber optics.
Yeah, so those fiber optics are in place and they're fixed permanent. But if I could change it, I would only shoot the red. But if I would try to only shoot red, I would have to stuff the other 2 up to the top, and I would see them.
Yeah,
but I'm used to a red dot. So
yeah, it makes sense. Archery optics or archery sights come usually in 2 different flavors: multi-pin and single pin. Multi-pin is basically what you're going to get regardless. Like if you buy a ready to hunt package and it comes with a sight, it will have a multi-pin sight with it. There's nothing inherently wrong with a multi-pin sight. Some people shoot them just fine. The concept being is that you are sighting in each pin at a given distance. So usually in a 3 to 5 pin sight, 20, 30, 40, 50, so 10-yard increments from 20 on down, whatever you might want to do. Obviously, if you're going out west for that long range elk hunt with archery, you're going to want at least 70 yards, period. So whatever that happens to be. I can tell you that every deer I've missed with a bow was with a multi-pin sight. Regardless of training, regardless of practice, all that other shit, every time I missed a deer, it was through a multi-pin sight. I don't know why. I swear to you, hand to God on a stack of Bibles, my top sight, my top pin was lined up exactly where that shot should have gone at that distance. And it wasn't like, oh, I hit an inch high or an inch low. It was, I entirely missed the whole damn deer. Which, let's be clear, I would rather have that happen than a bad shot into the guts or the liver or whatever have you and wound the animal versus kill it. But I moved eventually to a single pin sight that was adjustable, and I would use that, and I hit everything I was aiming at from that point on. So just removing that ocular clutter or visual clutter made a huge difference for me. And I recommend a single pin sight that's especially adjustable because you can, the concept being is that you can move the sight on the fly. It comes with a big adjustment wheel. And if you turn up or down, it will adjust, near or far. So you instead of adjusting multiple pins, you set it, hit it on 20. Okay, I'm good. Move back to 30. Adjust your sight till you're hitting at 30. Put a little hash mark with a marker on a piece of tape. Most of your sights will come with that tape, by the way. You put a little marker on them. Fine tip Sharpie will do you just fine. So some of that stuff's actually even glow in the dark tape, so you can see your stuff in failing light.
On the screen, I have the equivalent of the archery red dot, which, if I get serious about this, is going on a bow. This is the equivalent of a hood scoop on a Honda. I'm going to have the cheapest, shittiest, Martin Hunter package bow with an $800 auto range finding digital bow sight that I can beep the boot and it'll go, the deer is 32 yards away from you, sir. And then it will give you a 32-yard pin. And if the deer moves, it will adjust your pin.
Yeah, that's pretty spooky. Actually, I was going to bring up something to you while we were talking about, because I asked you about your vision problems, right? Your keratoconus.
Yeah.
For competitive archery, and you could theoretically apply this same technology to a hunting tackle. There is a single pin sight that has glass. It's not just free. It's not just a stick with fiber optics on it. It's a stick through a piece of magnified glass. Okay, your peep sight will have a threaded portion where you screw in what is called a clarifier into your peep sight. Effectively, it's a fixed zoom optic. And that the guy that taught me how to shoot bows, right? So my wife and I have had our, we actually still have her bow. We're going to give it to our daughter here soon. But the same guy, like, I started shooting bows before I started hunting, obviously. But that means I had my first compound bow when I was working at the gun store back in Florida. And the guy that set me up was the Tim Herron equivalent, right? He's a multi-time, at least U.S. champion, and multi-time state champion for the state of Florida for competitive archery. And he's the one that set up my bow originally, and he taught me a lot about it as well. But that's what he had on one of his bows. I was like, dude, why does your peep sight look so funny? He goes, oh, that's my clarifier. I'm like, clarifier? He goes, yeah, draw this thing back and look through it. Oh my God. The amount of clarity and the zoom that it gave you on your target was amazing. So it's like, I don't want to shoot the deer in the ribs. I want to shoot the deer in the ribs through this hair.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, in competitive archery, he's shooting out to 50 yards at a paper target, and they're measuring the distance to like that 1/4-inch dot in the middle of the X ring to determine the victor, right? So having that type of setup on your bows is valuable in that situation.
Yeah. So those things are, $360, $380.
Oh yeah.
$200.
It did help that he was sponsored by Hoyt.
Well, so here's the thing, right?
He got all that shit for free anyway. But
as we're talking through this, I'm on the Cabela's and the different websites. My archery site looks like it costs $28. The one I'm shooting right now.
It probably did.
Something that's probably did. Yeah, and the Garmin super duper range finding laser, crazy thing is $1,300. So just like everything else, you can spend anywhere from $27 to $1,300 on your bow sight. So that's interesting. Let's talk two more things tonight before our time clock pumpkins us. I want to talk about.
We'll do those two things, and I've got a bonus thing for you guys about arrows.
Cool. All right, cool. So I need a kisser button. I worked out today as I was shooting that my anchor point is not as anchored as I thought it was. So I need to add a kisser button. Kisser button just being a little rubber disc that you put in the corner of your mouth every time as you draw, so you come to the same spot every time, lengthwise and everything else. And that it's kind of like a cheek weld on a shotgun. It's very important to get the same spot every time.
I'd argue it's more important.
Okay.
So, in archery, the consistency of your anchor points is far more crucial than a shotgun.
Okay, fair. Here's the thing. Technique-wise, the two things I was doing wrong was support hand grip. I was doing this or this. you want me doing next. So I was either knife handing or I was, actually closing my grip. You want me doing the okay symbol. So we got that worked out. And the other thing from a technique, three things technique. The other technique thing I was doing was I was leaving my arm locked out. You want a slight can't, so we can do that pretty easily. I worked that out. Third technique thing was anchor point. I thought I was anchoring correctly, but the problem is with my grip inconsistent and with my extension of my elbow inconsistent, my anchor point was also inconsistent. I worked all three of those things out tonight to great effect thanks to TJ's help, and my shooting improved drastically. So those are your three technique things. The kisser button's the last thing I need to add onto the bow. I'm pretty confident that'll help. Once I've added the kisser button onto the bow, I think I'll be pretty squared away from a technique thing. Now let's talk broadheads.
Nope, hold on. There's one more thing about technique that we haven't covered yet.
Oh, go for it.
The value and importance of follow through.
Ooh, okay.
So 300 feet per second might seem pretty damn fast. And if you get one of those fancy lighted nocks on the back of your arrow where you can actually turn your arrow into a fucking tracer and watch that thing, it might even look like it's going pretty damn fast. However, when you are shooting, when you loose that arrow, there's still a good millisecond that very well may be interrupted by you wanting to drop that support hand down, right? You can still impact or influence the flight and trajectory of your arrow as it's passing through your rest. In Kent's case, he has what is called a whisker biscuit, right? It's effectively a 360-degree circular broom, right? Drops his arrow into it. It's resting ever so gingerly, no pun intended, on the edges of these, whiskers of the bristles, and it will pass all the way through that circle, touching those bristles until it completely clears the bow. Okay, so your follow through needs to be rock solid. The alternative to that would be or a good way to mitigate the influence of you dropping your arm ever so slightly to mess with your arrow would be to move to what's called a drop away rest. These things will cock just like a hammer on a gun. It's a fork. When you cock it, it'll raise up. As you pull back, the string is slaved to your cables, which is the two crisscross strings between your string and your riser. It will anchor to those. As you pull, that string will be pulled taut, and it will disengage the safety mechanism on the fall away rest. So as soon as you let go of that arrow, the rest will fall away and the arrow will continue to move forward unintruded and not touching anything. So it will. So Kent, what I would actually recommend you do before you go buy $800 worth of optics, though I know you really, really want to, invest in a Ripcord fall away rest. It's been one of my favorite brands for many years. There are others out there, but Ripcord's probably one of the best. Not super expensive. Get yourself one of those and tell me you don't see an improvement.
One of $100. Yep. Oh, I see. That's interesting.
Now look, it's completely unnecessary. It's not necessary. You just have to really stress the importance of a proper follow through. Like until you see that arrow hit your target, you shouldn't be moving. But yeah, that's exactly the rest that I had, and man, was that thing worth the money that I spent.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So this our little group chat here is quickly turning into my fucking
your shopping list.
www.kentshittoBuyForHisBow.com / because TJ said so. There we go. All right, so that's cool. So I need a whisker biscuit and a follow away rest. No, excuse me.
I need a whisker biscuit,
a kisser button,
and a follow away rest.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you this right now, because that kisser button's going to wear out pretty quick. Okay. If it lasts you more than 200 arrows, I'll be surprised.
Oh,
that's okay. Oh. If it falls away or eventually comes loose and you get rid of it, don't worry about replacing it. A kisser button, think of it like training wheels. Once you build that myelination into your draw and your anchor point, you won't need that thing anymore. Although that one actually looks like it's put together better than some of the previous ones I've had. But yeah, that rubber will wear out eventually. And when it comes off, don't bother replacing it. It's a $5 investment.
Wheels.
Yeah, it's very much like training wheels. There's not a whole lot of people, because you got to remember, everything you add to your string is another thing cutting through the wind that's making more string noise.
Okay. So if you won't let me buy a kisser button,
I'm not saying I'm not prohibiting you. I'm just telling you, do it, but just understand what the value add's going to be, and that it's a temporary value.
So I Googled kisser button, and it came up with stabber midget or kisser button. So they either make a little guy that runs down the tree and stabs the deer, or one of these. Which one do I get to buy? Do I have a stabber midget?
If you want to. Okay. Kisser button will be fine.
Then I got to get a 70-liter pack instead of a 60-liter pack to carry my stabber midget with me.
There you go.
We're going to talk packs. Right. Hey, our next pre-recorded episode is all about packs, Alice frames, and what I'm quickly finding out in the backpacker world. I have a backpacking pack that is antiquated AF, and I'd like to upgrade it for a hunting pack that has a special meat compartment in it. Not that I intend to get any animals, but I figure I could put my beef sticks and my hunk of cheddar cheese in that motherfucker. It'd be all right.
There you go.
But anyway, I'm finding most of the backpacker packs. So if you guys can't tell, I went to Cabela's today. And they were all for girls. All the backpacker packs were for girls. Not just like, the color, but like they were made in like an hourglass frame setup. So I found like Cabela's guide series packs, like for dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a whole nother episode. But I was trying to figure out. They either make a pack that is dedicated to an Alice pack frame, or a pack that is dedicated to an internal frame with straps. It seems as though either Cabela's doesn't sell them and REI doesn't sell them, strange enough. But it seems as though gone are the days of the pack that both had conventional backpack straps on the pack and the ability to attach it to an Alice frame, depending on your mood. Seems like all the stuff anymore is either framed or not framed, and there's no in between. That's not because the one I do have has both conventional backpack straps on the pack, and those straps come off in clips, and those same straps clip onto the frame, which is ideally what I'd like. Anyway, moving on through the bows. So I think we've covered everything except for broadheads. Can we just make this a short segment and say Rage 100 grain 2-blade mechanicals are fine?
Yeah, by and large, yeah.
That's good.
So broadheads fall into two categories: mechanical and fixed blade, or also called cut on contact. Okay. I have hunted with both. I've had more success with mechanical broadheads than I had with fixed blades, but for every one of me that had those, there's plenty of people that have had better luck with fixed blades and cut on contact heads than mechanicals. It is what it is. The important thing to remember, whatever you so happen to choose from a broadhead perspective, that you shoot your arrows in practice with those broadheads on them to validate and verify your sights. Just like, you go to the range and you shoot 115 grain full metal jacket, cheap shit, 20 cents a round, ammo, versus your social work ammo, which is probably like 147 grain HST hollow point. The point of aim and point of impact, if you are sighted for one or the other, will not be equivalent across the board. This is especially important with fixed blade broadheads because that is another plane that is cutting through the wind and can influence the flight path of the arrow. right?
Fair enough.
It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons I like mechanicals better is because I've seen less deviation in those. But there's a whole level of tuning that you have to do if you're going to go to fixed blade broadheads.
So this is one of the reasons I like the Rage, because the Rage 100 grain.
Yeah, it comes with a dummy. Yeah, it comes with a dummy practice tip, so you could theoretically load those onto your arrows and shoot nothing but those dummies, but they're more expensive than just getting some field points, right?
Where's the blue ones? No, maybe they don't have these anymore.
They sometimes come in the pack. What a lot of people have been doing too, though, is regardless of what they get, because there's even a level of superstition with those dummy heads. So let's say I'm going to use X broadhead, whatever the hell it is, it doesn't matter. I'm going to buy twice what I think I need. Your average pack of broadheads will have about 3. I'll usually buy 6 because I at least want a full quiver, which holds about 6 arrows on my bow whenever I go hunting. They will buy even more, and they will super glue them shut and use those as dummies, just so that or hell, maybe they won't even super glue them, but most people will. But they will buy sacrificial broadheads just so that they can use it for the sighted procedure.
So you used to be able to get these, and it would appear that they no longer are a thing. So I should be jealously guarding the very few Rage practice heads I have left.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is, oh my God, there are so many different broadheads to choose from. We could do a whole year's worth of episodes. Like pick a broadhead, and we could do a show on that broadhead, and we could probably fill a whole year's worth of shows on them. That's how. So guys, here's the cool thing about archery, and I'll leave you this tip at least. This isn't the bonus tip, but this is a tip nonetheless. You might want to say to yourself, I really like what TJ and Ken are saying. I've got the bug. I want to try archery hunting. Where do I start? Find yourself. Don't go to Cabela's. I mean, Cabela's actually isn't all that bad. Cabela's and Bass Pro have a pretty decent program, and they will let you test fire whatever bows you're interested in. But if you find a place that's known for their archery, there's actually a really nice place on 95 in North Carolina, just outside of Fort Bragg, by the way. Actually has a 3D projected archery range, which is really cool. But either way, find a place that will let you try before you buy, and try different bows. Right? There are several people that will tell you that the Martin brand is garbage. There's people that'll tell you that Hoyt is garbage. It's guys, archery tackle is like golf clubs. I no bones about it. You go get custom golf clubs made, you are going to go through a very similar experience picking out your first bow.
Very cool. All right, man. So what's your practice tip? Or your practice. Now I'm saying practice tips. What's your bonus tip?
Fletch. So arrows can be customized in many different ways. I like arrow wraps. It's essentially a 6-inch to 8-inch sticker that will go around the back end of the arrow shaft. You then fletch your fletchings or glue your fletchings to that sticker. I like to use pink wraps and pink feathers or veins.
¿Por qué, señor?
Because in the fall and winter seasons, pink is the least common natural color that occurs. Very easy to find your arrow. It's easier to find your arrows, especially if you miss and bury one into the dirt. It's easier to recover your arrows. And especially when you're looking at for premium arrows, you're looking at anywhere from $13 to $20 a piece.
Yeah. I did
for
pay,
premium arrows. Yeah, you're going to pay
$10 a piece.
So
that's what I paid.
It's important to recover those things.
Yeah.
I've tried all different types. I've tried some that have like a reflective wrap, all this other different hokey shit. And quite frankly, pink feathers and pink arrow wraps were some of the best things that I did and the cheapest to get a hold of.
Dude, that's a good hot tip. So
I cannot claim ownership of that tip. That tip came from, I want to say his last name is Eichler. He had a hunting show on the Outdoor Channel many, many years ago. I want to say his name's Fred Eichler, but I could be wrong. But he swore by using pink feathers at least for your arrows because it's easier to find and for that exact reason. And by God, I tried it and he ain't wrong.
By God, I like it. Well, I'm becoming increasingly more confident that I'm going to sit in this little ground blind that I have all figured out. And I know deer walk through this area in the morning, and I have about 2 hours of daylight in the morning before work during archery season. And I've got 45 days. So if my ass is in that chair at least 15 of those days for 2 hours of whack, I have a pretty good chance of putting an arrow into a deer, especially seeing as I've got doe and buck tags for this area.
Mm-hmm.
So I would very much enjoy putting meat in the freezer during archery season would significantly change my outlook for gun season.
Mm-hmm.
It would change the way I gun hunted. I would probably, if I can put meat in the freezer sometime in October,
you could focus more on a trophy in the winter.
I wouldn't be so inclined to go hunt the public land that I have access to primarily because of doe tags. A lot of times, like there's this magic line where we're at, and I live on the east side of the line. West of that line, it's pretty easy to get deer management area doe permits. East of that line, it's pretty difficult to get a doe tag regardless. Well, this year I got a damn doe tag. I actually have 2 doe tags. So this year I can both hunt where I want to hunt, where I've continuously seen deer, and I can hunt where I happen to have patterned a couple of decent bucks. So gun season, I'm less likely. My gun season decision has historically been I only have a few days to actually go out and go gun hunting all day. So if I'm going to go do that, I'm going to go where I can shoot a buck or a doe. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have to do that. So if I get a deer in archery season, this is why I'm talking packs and shit. I fully intend to strap that gun to a pack and take a long ass walk and sleep in a woods somewhere overnight. And hopefully bring home, Billy the big buck. And I'll be honest with you, the experience will be 50-50 about Billy the big buck and 50-50 about solo camping for the purposes of deer hunting, which is not I have not done that in a decade and a half. And it hurts me that I'm old enough to say a decade and a half with a straight face and have been an adult when that was true. So that's the deal. Mm-hmm. But anyway, guys, this is really cool because him and I can you'd think we'd fuck around a little more recorded, but the pre-recording has actually left us in this position where we can be a little more measured and a little more direct. And we kind of gave ourselves a hard time. We said hey, let's not fuck around. Let's be an hour. And we were still an hour 10 or an hour, whatever.
Hour 24.
Cool. But here's the deal. We gave out a shitload of content in this, and TJ did an amazing job of delivering content on a subject matter that this podcast, by rights, if it didn't have to do with him, would not be we would have no expertise on this topic. This would be hobbyist grade at best, and he's got some knowledge base. So, guys, I'm excited to explore in this pre-recorded format. What TJ and I are probably going to do is we're probably going to talk very detailed, like we might pick up. Do an episode on packs, or we might do an episode on deer hunting rifles and just talk rifles. We might pick a whatever. And then we'll let the training topics and the group topics, when we have guests, kind of flow the way they normally have. So I'm excited about this new possibility to do this way. And he and I can realistically an hour and a half of these, such as seen fit. So it's occurred to me that, TJ, we need to do this in the beginning, but I'll do it now. Today is September 17th, 2023, right? Because we're not going to be live. You don't know when you're hearing this. So if you catch this on the YouTubes, we're in mid-September of 2023. So this episode is very timely. We're talking about, I've got 15 days until archery season here. So that's why we're talking about this now.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I got into archery hunting to begin with, is because I was in love with hunting. Still am. I still love hunting very much. Actually getting to that point where I'm looking forward most to getting my son out into the deer woods soon, and eventually my daughter. But when you hunt archery season starts a lot earlier. In some states, it's August.
Yep.
Like tail end of August, early September, you're in the deer woods. One last thing I would recommend, of course, if you do choose to get involved into archery hunting, you may want to, if your state permits it, consider carrying a sidearm.
Yup.
I have a 2-shot 410 Derringer that my wife bought me for my birthday many years ago. And that's because it just so happens that in the great state of Tennessee, August and September, when archery season starts, is also when timber rattler breeding season starts.
Dude, if them snakes be fucking, you better be out the way.
Yeah. But that also goes for copperheads, other venomous snakes, cottonmouths, which are the most prevalent here in Middle Tennessee. But yeah, trust me, and invest in a damn Thermacell bug repellent.
Can confirm, did use during bear hunt. Was important. Great success.
Yep. You're out there in August, September. It's still 70, 80 degrees. Them mosquitoes are going to love you.
Yeah, the skemeters will get you. All right, dudes.
Yep.
We're going to wrap this up. Are we going to do an outro? GreenMountainDefense.com/affiliate-links. If you're going to buy gun stuff, you might as well buy it anyway from our friends. Save 0%, but help us. Awesome brands like Primary Arms, and Primary Arms, because I can't think of any at the moment. So that's a thing, and they might not even be a thing anymore. But if you find that link, you'll find the links to the things that are, in fact, the things. Buy our T-shirts. TJ's got them in the description down there. Buy Cam's T-shirt if you want to give Cam a little leg up. But Tisk, he's still missing his leg. He hasn't found it yet. Someday, maybe. What he did find today, though, was a wife. I'm sorry, yesterday. Cam Dunn did get wifed. So congratulations to Mr. Cam and Miss Kelsey on their nuptials. The two of them are taking their first steps together as husband and wife. Jesus God. It just happened. They literally just happened. That wasn't even intentional. I swear, humor is not a crutch for me. I need to.
All right, stop.
I need to kneel down and pray. Anyway, so go support Cam. That's a good thing. Buy Green Mountain Defense T-shirts. Buy podcast T-shirts. Do all that good kind of stuff. And yeah, TJ, you say things at the end sometimes. Do you want to say the thing?
I usually do. Yeah.
I know. I just decided to go for it. This is a whole new adventure for us.
Yeah, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you this pre-recorded content. Again, look for more. GreenMountainDefense.com or Kent at GreenMountainDefense.com if you want to send him a direct email, or you can send our podcast a direct email at Sling'Npodcast.com. You can also find us on the socials, but if you want your questions heard and possibly read on the air, email is going to be the absolute best way. Until we see each other again, God bless you all. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot.
Even if it's a bow, apparently.